declare those. And so we move on to public participation. We have no public forum presentations advised in advance of the meetings, but we do have 2 deputations by appointment, and the first one that I'd like to invite to the table is the Avon Otakaro Network. Evan Smith is presenting a deputation on behalf of the network on item 11, establishment of the co-governance group for transitional land use of Christchurch red zones. Welcome this morning.
Kia ora.
Kia ora. You're our first deputation of the new term.
That matches the first one of the year when we started this year. It's becoming a habit. Kia ora koutou. As Leanne said, my name is Evan. I'm a spokesperson for Avon Otakaro Network. I'd like to give a warm welcome to lots of new faces, and especially to the new two wise men of the East. We look forward to working with you. For those who don't already know, for the past 8 years, Avon Otakaro Network has been advocating for turning the Otakaro Avon River Corridor into a city-to-sea multi-purpose river park that meets diverse community needs with the maximum restoration of Indigenous habitat. Next year is 2020, and 2020 means clarity of vision. We have that now for the Otakaro Avon River Corridor with the approval of the regeneration plan. A clearer vision than we have had for any other recovery or regeneration project in the city since the earthquakes. And it is now time to start executing it. And 2020 is also a leap year. It is now time to leap forward in the implementation of that plan. We have been waiting, treading water for too many years. It is now time to leap into action. The foundation of this was laid with the agreement of the global settlement. The proposals before you today enable the next steps in this process, and it's more than just agenda item 11, I think it's also 8 and 9 as well. Setting up the governance of transitional use of all the residential red zone lands in the city, and setting up the funding for implementation of the green spine infrastructure. It also proposes immediate access to a tranche of seed funding to enable initial community facilitation of transformative evolutionary use in the corridor in a number of specific realms of activity. With regard to the governance of transitional use, we need to make no mistake, I'm sure you can see with the volume of paper before you, it is extremely complex because there are 4 very different, very distinct red zones included, each with their own different and distinct issues and environments. And they cover 3 different community board territories. Coming up with a governance mechanism that is fair to all red zones, yet is efficient to administer, is a very difficult task. The way these tensions have been resolved in this proposal, we believe a good, expedient and cost-effective option to start us off in terms of governance. And we congratulate the staff on their work on this to date in arriving at this proposition which is before you today. Although we strongly endorse this proposal with regard to governance of transitional use, we would caution that as a model of future governance of the Otakaro Avon River Corridor, it falls short in that ultimately a regeneration project of this size will need its own governance structure exclusively focused on the corridor long term. It also falls short in that true kaitiaki co-governance with iwi should be more than a presence at the table for iwi, but rather a treaty-based 50-50 arrangement. However, the current proposal is a very good compromise in the interim to get us underway. We strongly endorse the recommendations for the business case for the 40 million acceleration fund allocation for the corridor and for the 15 million CEAT funding to support implementation of green spine infrastructure. We also endorse the recommendation to immediately allocate funding for the next 2 years for community facilitation of transitional use within the corridor from the 700,000 set aside for corridor transitional use in the annual plan. We acknowledge that this fund is now proposed to cover all the red zones, not just the corridor, but also acknowledged that they also need funding for transitional use and activation. Funding for the proposed community catalyst roles we view as key to unlocking implementation of community initiatives in the corridor. For so long, many of the community organisations that specialise in this have been constrained by resourcing issues, and good people, opportunities and projects have been lost because we have insufficient funding to pay for these key facilitation roles. The need for this is urgent if we are to jumpstart regeneration opportunities, and those opportunities will be lost if approval has to await establishment of the consultative group. Although Avon has been active in advocating for this funding, we will not be the primary beneficiary of it. Over 2/3 of it will be directly available to other community organisations working in the corridor. It is that component that I'm speaking in support of here. Well-established organisations with good track records, such as Avon Forest Park, who would lead the community response to natural restoration initiatives alongside Christchurch City Council biodiversity team, Avery House Community Trust, who will lead facilitation of community heritage and arts trails in collaboration with parks, visitor attraction teams and heritage teams. Food Resilience Network, who will lead facilitation of food resilience initiatives like community gardens, orchards, urban farms, etc. throughout the corridor. And Revolution Tiny House Village Society, who will lead facilitation of tiny house projects within the corridor. It would also help establish the facilitation of 4 major activation events in the corridor, 1 for each season of the calendar, 3 led by community groups other than Avon. Collectively, we can facilitate that leap into action that we've been waiting for so long and that we alluded to before. Finally, in parallel to this, Avon will continue to play a significant role at a strategic level. For example, we are currently working with the Student Volunteer Army on deploying hundreds of students throughout the corridor on a range of these projects to give Leap Year a leap ahead kickstart on the 29th of February, Leap Year Day 2020. We're also supervising a Master's intern who has worked with us to write a strategic framework for transitional use using the Revolution Tiny House Village as an example. Something would be of considerable value to Council in future and to the governance of transitional use. So it provides a framework for policy to ensure alignment with the regeneration plan. We will also continue to work with Council and Mana Whenua on matters relating to governance, land tenure, lease conditions, funding, community engagement and implementation at a corridor-wide level to achieve win-win-wins for Council, iwi and community in the Ōtākaro Avon River corridor. The next step is the proposals before you now. We urge you to give these urgent consideration and approval so that we can indeed make 2020 a true leap forward for the East. Kia ora.
Kia ora. Thank you very much. We have a couple of minutes for questions for Evan. Does anyone have any questions? Melanie?
Hi, Evan. Sorry, I was just wondering how long you thought sort of this interim group that's proposed should last before it sort of splits maybe into different governance groups for different areas?
I think we're in a very dynamic situation. We have to be very agile and flexible about that. I think we need to ensure that we review the situation on an annual basis. It will depend a lot in terms of a public debate around what long-term governance of the corridor would look like and how soon that can be established and some consensus arranged within the city of how that might proceed. So it could be anywhere between 1 and 5 years. It's very hard to tell. It depends. But we would hope that the momentum is rapidly increased from what we've had to date. But there are still challenges in terms of the Crown still determines the lease conditions for transitional use, and that has a real impact on still stalling a significant number of projects because those lease conditions don't allow investment at the present time into those projects. So there's a lot of factors interplaying here in the dynamic.
Look, I couldn't agree more. I think that one of the concerns that we've always had is that there was a degree of risk aversion. My question, I guess, is do you think this is the case around the idea that you might see the transition become the permanent? Whereas I actually think that it's a positive if the transition is able to be tested in a transitional environment and then leads to a more permanent use for the land.
That's why I've mentioned this in the past in previous deputations, that we don't like the word transitional anymore. It's more about transformative evolutionary use.
Yes, transformative evolutionary use. I think, we could all adopt that phrase, I think. Excellent. Well, look, thank you very much, and thank you for being the first to come at the beginning of the term and with such a positive presentation to the council. Thank you very much. Could I now invite Hayley Guglietta and Kathy Alden to present on items 9, Otakaro Avon River Corridor Investment Case, and item 10, the Roading and Transport Investment Case off the back of the Christchurch Regeneration Acceleration Facility. Thank you and welcome.
Kia ora. I'm just wearing my volunteer t-shirt. You can't see the back of it. So.
We have to share the piece of paper, so I just have to lean in. Kia ora, welcome. Thank you. Oh, thank you for having us. I'm Hayley, this is Kathy. We'd just like to congratulate you all on your re-election and welcome the newbies to the council table, and also Dawn, welcome to Christchurch. Today we're here to represent and advocate for a number of organisations who have been responsible for the activation in Richmond. Post-earthquake, Richmond saw the loss of our population, and a lot of things happened to us, and as a result of that we've actually come together and built a really strong team of people, in fact a small army who are getting a lot of stuff done on many levels. So some of those organisations are the Richmond Residents and Business Association, Richmond Community Garden, Avebury House and Revolution. Richmond, or Revolution, or the Richmond part of the river corridor, which we like to refer to as Revolution, has actually already put in place a number of successful transitional projects. We engaged with a large number of organisations.
That would be transformative.
Sorry,
yeah.
I just said to Kathy, quick, change all the transitions to transformative. And yeah, so we already engaged with a large number of organisations, either related to Richmond or related to the overall river corridor vision. And as a result of that, we have got a large number of proposals that are waiting in the wings to get started, really. So, you can do that one.
This one.
Oh, so we strongly support the staff recommendations in agenda item 9.
That's
and
me.
Kathy's going to talk about that because it's very close to her.
We have a number of roads that are technically red zone yet remain open. These roads are a major arterial linked to the east, and they connect our remaining schools and have people living near them. These roads have not really been touched for the last 9 years and have become hazardous. Bit of a fun part for boy racers and police chase, dumping of rubbish. And for a long time, the Medway Bridge has become a symbol of destruction. And the replacement of the bridge is critical to the health and well-being of the Richmond residents, and is a key to the activation of some of our Revolution transitional projects. We would like to see the replacement of the Medway Bridge as a top priority. Thank you.
So we also support and resonate with the benefits laid out in 4.2 of Agenda 9. We believe that we are well positioned to offer some real context and real life examples around the benefits of the green spine to the surrounding communities with what we've already achieved. So we'd just like to give you a bit of a rundown on that. So the Richmond Community Garden is an established stop-off point, and in the last 12 months we've seen such a marked increase in people using the river trail and stopping off and hanging out at our picnic tables and enjoying the space with their families. this has been really important for our suburb to then also be utilising and mixing with people coming into the trail. So it shows you the connectivity that having these transitional or transformative projects can have in connecting the existing suburbs to the river corridor. And also that increased activity has reduced the petty vandalism and the silly stuff that goes on remarkably. So we can actually tell you that activation really reduces crime.
The activation around the corridor has connected our community in remarkable ways. It has seen the establishment of the Richmond Residents and Business Association brand We Are Richmond to promote the people, organisations and businesses in Richmond, which in turn brings everyone together for events, improvements to our environment and the way in which our neighbourhoods function. The connection to the river corridor is integral to this.
So over the past, actually I'll go back to that slide. So over the past 4 years, we've assisted Avon Forest Park to protect an established native forest that sits inside our space. And we've also planted over 2,000 native plants in our berms, replacing the grass, which reduces the maintenance costs, but it has also increased visibly and what's the word? We can hear the number of birds that have now come back to the space. The bugs and the wildlife and the pollinators and everything has really come alive since we've done that body of work. It's also made it a foraging paradise for people. We don't have any sprayers, and that has really brought along the understories of the wild foods that can be reached in the understories. So the more we're able to do this, the more impact we're going to have on climate change.
The initiatives in Revolution and subsequent improvements around our suburb are a sense of pride for our locals. We've seen an increase in the number of young families moving to the area, and we hope that it encourages more people to lay down roots in Richmond to provide a much needed boost to our local businesses and replacement to all the amenities we have lost, which we hope will only increase the value of our properties and sense of pride in the immediate area. In just 2 years, we've created a number of employment opportunities associated with transitional use projects. And in the coming 12 months, we will look to employ another 3 full-time positions, jobs for people on the margins in our neighbourhood, and a training programme and work experience to get people back into the workforce. So if we can achieve all this on the smell of an oily rag, which is what we're doing at the moment, imagine what we can achieve with some infrastructure in place, some seed money and the opportunity to create sustainable social enterprises.
And just quickly, we strongly support the staff recommendations in agenda item 10 for the investment case for the roading in certain suburbs, Richmond included. Our expectation was that this money was going to be available last year, and we were hoping that would have happened so that we could keep the work program going that's occurred. In a short space of time, we've gone from having a really fractured roading program, which has really upset our neighbourhood, to actually our teams working with the council and the roading teams to put together a really great roading plan that's working, and we'd like to see that continue. And finally, we support the staff recommendation in agenda item 11 and acknowledge that the establishment of a transitional governance group will be complicated but necessary to uphold the intention of the Global Settlement and Regeneration Plan. It is also an important function to honour the people that vacated the land and to ensure that the people left behind in the surrounding communities are an integrated part of the process, not just a tick box. So I'm going to let Kathy finish with a savings.
Oh yeah, okay. So just coming from working with the community in the local neighbourhood, the volunteers and all the other organisations that we've spoken about today, I'd just like to say a little saying which I think resonates with what we're doing at the moment, is Ehara taku tau toa I ti toa Takitahi, Angara, Hitoa, Takatini, which means success is not the work of one, but the work of many.
Sorry,
Thank you
we've
very
probably
much.
gone over because I can't see.
Well, no, we have a minute left,
Oh,
so
yes.
if anyone had a quick question, there would be time. Yanni?
Thank you. Have you seen the design for the Medway Bridge? And have you? I was just wondering if you'd had any involvement in the production of the design.
No. No, and I have no comment on it, actually. I think at this point, we just want the bridge back. So that we can enjoy what the bridge brought for our community in terms of connecting to the red zone. And also, a personal note is that for me, being able to walk a small loop after work is great, rather than having to walk a massive loop, which sometimes makes you not want to walk it.
I guess I was just trying to understand if you think there'd be benefit in having some sort of community design
Absolutely,
process
yeah.
around the
Yeah,
bridge
yeah, absolutely.
versus
Yeah.
just us implanting a structure.
Yeah. So my understanding from that was that that was just a symbolic picture.
Yeah.
Of, and I assume that there will be some. I assume that there would be some consultation about what it looks like.
I think that would be great, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm getting a series of nods from the side, so, and I mean, there's just no question that the community needs to be involved in that part of the journey, but I think it will be an enormous relief that it is on the program that we'll sign off today. So thank you very much for your submission, deputation today, very valuable, thank you very much.